Hello and welcome back to another episode of Warcraft Daily. So in today's news we have an interview with Alex Afrasabi. It's about a whole bunch of things including Garrisons, some dungeon things, and just some general Warlords of Draenor stuff. Then I'm going to have a little bit of a chat about the Heroes of the Storm Alpha, and finally we will round it off with some tweets from the developers. Now, first of all, the whole big interview. So this was once again with Alex Afrasabi, and it was pretty interesting. He said a lot of relevant stuff. It's kind of interesting. Blizzard seemed to go just like from developer to developer, and then they just roll them out on a whole bunch of interviews. Just as an example, we had like 10 interviews with Ian Hazzikostas. Now we're getting multiple interviews with Alex Afrasabi, so I'm guessing that whenever they switch to a new developer, that's when we're going to get a whole bunch of new and interesting news. Anyway, so, as for the interview itself, first of all, he said that the quest line itself at the very start of Warlords of Draenor is going to be more tailored and linear than most. This is the 45-minute introduction experience, by the way. Basically, they want to kick it off with a bang, and a big, large, important series of quests that should hopefully communicate the feel of the expansion well. He also said that we're going to be there with heroes like Thrall and Khadgar. So overall, whether you're Alliance or your Horde, it seems like your bases are going to be covered in terms of heroes, and honestly, it just sounds like a very good way to open up the expansion. Hopefully a little bit better than the Mists opening, because I think that it just played out more like a really short scenario rather than something that was long and really sort of just I don't mean drawn out in terms of, bad in terms of pace, but just a bit longer, so that it can really give you more of a feel for the expansion, a feel for the Iron Horde, and that kind of thing. It's weird, it seems like they're just going in a really good direction with questing. I love the changes in the zones where you just have one main quest that takes you throughout the zone, and then lots of optional little side quests to go off and just do things. And I like that. I like how they've been talking about a darker storyline, and I really like what they're saying about the introduction quest, and also the way that the questing is going to be sort of more fast-paced and fun than it was in Mists of Pandaria in terms of how fast you move from zone to zone. Overall, it just sounds great, and I'm really happy that perhaps they're just trying to give quests a little bit of a kick up the arse, because I think that really, after Mists of Pandaria, they did need that. Alright, so the next thing he said is that they are aiming for at least 10 new mounts. He said that they are aiming for at least 10, but then later on in the same paragraph he said that they are shooting for 10, so I think in around 10 is going to be the number that we will get. Now, I think this is the total amount of mounts, not the just like new model types. And you know what? I wonder just how many unique models 10 mounts will translate to. Now, I will have to find out the numbers for some of the other expansions. I mean, of course, the Burning Crusade is going to be the highest, because that's when they added flying. But I'd like to see how many, like, say, Wrath shipped with, or how many Cataclysm or Mist shipped with. Just 10 doesn't seem like that big an amount to me, so I'll have to see. Though I think the biggest issue is in terms of new models, because I think that's where Mists of Pandaria really fell short. Like, we got lots of reskinned Celestial Dragons in terms of mounts that just regular players could get from the more accessible content, and I think that was perhaps a little bit of a pity, because don't get me wrong, the Celestial Dragons were, in my opinion, a really, really beautiful model, but just some variation would be nice. Alright, so next he said that for certain battles, our Garrison followers will join us. Now, I'm not exactly what sort of content he's talking about in regards to the battles, but I don't know, that's just the sentence that Alex said. I like the idea of followers joining us on battles, though, because one of the problems that they could have, well, I guess just one of the pitfalls they could have fallen into, was the idea of a follower just being a static thing inside your garrison that really just is a menu element that you see in the world. It's the kind of thing, you hit the garrison button, you send your followers out on quests, and you see no more of them. Well, I'm glad that we're actually going to have some realistic kind of like gameplay scenarios that involve these guys. So, yep, definitely an opportunity that I'm glad they have chosen not to pass up. Very, very happy to see that. He also confirmed that there will be a limit on the number of followers. They're not exactly sure how they will do it. It may be a certain amount of followers per building. It may be that you just start off with a base, like minimum amount of, or maximum amount of followers, and then you can increase that over time. Not sure, but there will be a limit. That's probably the way to do it. I guess you don't want people to have 1 million followers so that they can do every single possible type of raid or, like follower mission at once, because I think that might be a little bit overpowered. Okay, so next he said that they're actually currently talking about ways in which you can benefit from having friends over at your garrisons. He didn't say any specifics, just that they like the idea of you benefiting from your friends being there. Of course, this being a social MMORPG, that makes complete sense, and it's very good. The question is, though, what ways could your friend being there help you? Well, I mean, I don't know, it's up to Blizzard to find out, but it certainly is an interesting idea. I'd like, actually, just the whole idea of a scenario or special, not scenario, but like special garrison missions that involve you and your followers. Maybe you could take your friends along and them, or, I don't know, maybe there's special co-op missions or something. I think they can expand this whole garrison thing by adding in like little cool missions or quests, or just that kind of thing. Though, that said, I'd imagine that kind of content would basically be the exact same as scenarios with a different name, so maybe they should just continue, chugging along with scenarios. Okay, so the next thing he said is that the garrisons may come to Azeroth, but only if the developers feel that it is the right decision based off Warlords of Draenor. Of course, none of the actual player base of World of Warcraft has even touched a garrison yet, and it's, like many things in an MMO, a giant experiment. MMOs in themselves are basically very long-running experiments, and that is really good because it allows developers to refine processes, cut out the fat, make new changes, and that kind of thing. So if it's a successful feature in Warlords, I am very sure that you will not see the functionality disappear with the end of the expansion. Next, he said that in terms of dungeons, we will get a few Iron Horde dungeons, a Arakoa dungeon, a Ner'zhul-based dungeon in Shadowmoon Valley, and then an Over dungeon in Frostfire Ridge. And then finally the Auchindoun one, but with Auchindoun being its pristine state. Then he also said that there will be revamped dungeons like Blackrock Spire. Okay, so that's fair enough. I just thought that because he listed the themes, it was probably worth mentioning here. I think the game is shipping with something like, is it 8 new dungeons or something like that? In and around that. And I think that they could definitely ship with more. There's a wider sort of thing to talk about here, but essentially, just to boil it down, if you look at the Burning Crusade, it had like, 15, 16, 17 dungeons, and okay, a few of them were added post-launch. But if you were to look at Hellfire Citadel, that's one tile set, it's one set of art, and it's 3 dungeons, all of which are relatively different. So, if you then move up into Wrath of the Lich King, you'll see the same thing happen with the Nairobian dungeons, with Utgard Keep, but then in Warlords, well, instead of having like 4 Auchindoun dungeons, or 4 different Frostfire dungeons, or maybe even 3, whatever, they're just having one of each art tile set. I think that is a bit of a pity, because honestly, players didn't mind that. It was okay having 3 or 4 dungeons that, of course, look different, but still have the same base art behind them. I think that's fine. And honestly, like, in patch 5.4, the reason why the Timeless Isle is based off the Jade Forest tileset is because the artists were busy working in Warlords of Draenor. So obviously players are okay with the idea of getting content that's got perhaps a similar tileset to other bits of content. So honestly, I would be happy if we had, I don't know, let's just say for the Iron Horde dungeons, there was one in Blackrock Foundry. Now, I know that is the main raid instance, but perhaps it could have 3 different dungeons surrounding it, and surrounding the smaller little satellite buildings, and the same could go for the Arakoa. Why only one Arakoa dungeon? So what he talked about here was just launch dungeons. There is, of course, a good chance that they will add new things as time goes on. I think it would definitely be the right idea, they should definitely do that. The only thing to worry about, though, is it's not really a thing for us to worry about, it's more for them from a design perspective, but they just need to ensure that they don't funnel everyone into 2 dungeons when the 2 new dungeons come out. So, just like in patch 4.1, where the 2 new Zalandari dungeons essentially meant that there was no point in doing anything other than those 2 dungeons if you wanted to gear. Then finally he said that there are going to be 10 new scenarios, and that is it for the interview. Overall pretty interesting. I'm perhaps a little bit concerned about the number of new mounts in terms of unique models. I'm very happy to hear about that intro quest line and just get some more information about it. And as for dungeons, it may have seemed like I was being harsh. That was just a numerical thing. In terms of the aesthetics and art that I've seen from Warlords currently, I think these new dungeons are going to look fantastic, and they will probably play very well. I'm extremely happy about the difficulty changes too. Alright, so the next thing on today's list of news is the Heroes of the Storm alpha test. Now, this is an alpha, it's smaller than a beta, chances of you being in are minuscule, honestly. It's not really the kind of thing they just give out to everyone. They've given it out to a lot of Twitch streamers and things like that, and a lot of YouTube people. I'm pretty sure that the reason I'm not in it is because I sent my email to them, like, just not in good time, honestly, so that's my own fault. Hopefully I'll get in the next wave and I'll be able to bring you some content there. And I do have a video later today that's just about some of the systems of the game, like leveling up, skins, tints, how heroes are unlocked, that kind of thing. So anyway, yeah, that's that. The game itself does look like quite a lot of fun. I was watching some Twitch streams last night. I was like, can't wait to get my hands on it. Looks like a great time, honestly. Okay, next we have some stuff from Twitter. First of all, from Watcher, he said that cross-realm normal Siege of Orgrimmar is still not going to happen due to a tech limitation. Basically, they cannot make the normal mode cross-realm without doing the same to heroic. That's just an underlying code reason, and this is a problem that obviously won't really exist in Warlords. Then he also said that the current plan with Siege of Orgrimmar feat of strength achievements is to make them unobtainable when patch 6.0 arrives. Honestly, that seems absolutely fair enough to me. Okay, so next we have a few tweets from Chris Robertson. First of all, he tweeted to say that he is aware of some people's concerns about face variation amongst various races in the game, and that he is going to address them in a future Artcraft blog. Then he also said that they will be having an update on Draenei female and Tauren male facial animations soon, and I'm going to assume that we will see that in an Artcraft post. Yeah, the Artcraft blogs have actually been very interesting to me, and it's actually been a decent little while since we've had one, so it would be nice to get one. At least, maybe in the next week or two. Of course, they're probably going to do it, at least in my head, I think they're going to have maybe a Warlords of Draenor systems blog, then maybe an Artcraft post on probably a 1 to 2 week rotation. Alright, so next we have a few tweets from Lore. First of all, he said that they are completely aware of the need for excellent flight paths in Warlords of Draenor. He said that not everyone will be a direct A to B flight, but they definitely will not send you in circles either. And then he also said that getting to a Warlords of Draenor raid should take about the same time as getting to your average Mists of Pandaria raid. I think that's fine, and honestly, it shouldn't take too much longer to move around the place. In Mist, some of the zones were not perfectly well designed for running around on a ground mount, and that's not just in terms of not having roads like, say, elements of the Dread Wastes, but just layouts of zones, where things are, and that kind of thing. It should be better, and honestly, with a regular 100% speed ground mount, you should be fine. If you combine that with flight points, you'll be able to get from wherever you are to wherever you want to go in just as much time as previously. So in terms of the actual gameplay, effect, really shouldn't be that much, at least hopefully. Anyway, so next we have 1 or 2 tweets just to finish off today's show, and they are from Celestial. And first of all, he said that the charges for warriors are made with different tech now. So in Warlords of Draenor, the problem with warriors just being able to charge straight through a trap should be removed. That's definitely good. It was a bit silly the way that could happen sometimes. So yeah, definitely a nice little addition to the game. Then he said that multi-strikes and similar things will get a defensive value through passives. So a little bit like how it works with crit, honestly. That's good, it makes sense, and it just means that basically every secondary stat is going to be of use to every different kind of role, and that's very important for just making the gearing system that they're going for with Warlords make sense. Then finally, he said that dodge, parry, hit, and expertise will be replaced with some other useful stats. Alright, so that is it for today's show. Yeah, if you enjoyed it, you can check out my Patreon page if you want to help out the channel. And then there's my social media links, especially Twitter. Twitter's really been jumping up quite a bit in the last few days, and I'm actually having a great deal of fun chatting to people over Twitter. Alright, so that's it. Thank you very much for watching, hope you enjoyed the show, and I will see you next time.